What is up, everybody? Welcome into episode 4 of Chris and Company. I am Chris Castellani. First off, thank you very much for the positive response to the last several interviews. The most recent episode with Nick Tarani, you guys received it very well. Nick, always a beautiful, beautiful sport and a beautiful soul. I gotta stop with him. The guy, everybody knows I like him. But today, we're gonna go on to another guy that I really like. Tigers prospect, future Detroit Tiger. Knock on wood. He will be. Justyn-Henry Malloy just recorded an interview with him. Go ahead and listen to that. Don't forget to hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get those watch hours up. Put all the fixings on it. Spread it. Retweets, likes. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Rumble. We'll go from there. Enjoy the interview. All right, we are joined today here at episode 4 by Tigers top prospect, former Atlanta Braves farmhand, did a little bit of research here, the first Georgia Tech player to debut in the major league since 2019, would be the first Georgia Tech player to debut for the Tigers since Buck Farmer in 2014 when he made his debut. So we're going a ways back. Justyn-Henry Malloy joins us live. You're currently in Lakeland, I believe, right?
Yes.
How's
We're
that
all
going so
started
far,
in
man?
Lakeland. It's awesome. It's been great. I mean, day one or official day one for position players was yesterday. So being able to see all the guys trickle in and now officially just be here, it's been awesome to just be able to catch up and to be able to get things rolling. It's exciting.
Were you in Lakeland camp last year?
Yes.
You were okay. Yeah, no, I was wondering about that, but we'll definitely talk about that here in just a second. A lot of questions, Tiger questions I want to get to, but I want to go a little bit further back. I kind of like to start from the beginning. You know, you were drafted out of Georgia Tech, but you got your start at Vanderbilt. You played 2 years at
Yes.
Vandy in 2019, 2020. You transferred after the COVID year. So you were a part of the 2019 national championship team then with
Yes.
Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. First question. Have you had the opportunity, and I'm saying this as a Michigan fan, to maybe like shit talk Chris Fetter a little bit about that that run through Omaha, or is that more of a touchy subject?
No, I mean, honestly, the national championship is great. It's sick. But I wasn't a part of the experience. I didn't go to Omaha. I didn't get in that travel roster. So I decided to go play summer ball in Newport in the NECBL. And but it was cool being able to watch all my friends and, see them celebrate and, get that win in Omaha. So it was pretty cool. But I was not a part of that experience.
Yeah, I was trying to research that because I saw at least in 19 it was only a certain number of at bats, so I wasn't sure what the travel situation was like exactly with how many people go to Omaha. But my first exposure to you was December 2022. You get traded from the Braves to the Tigers for Joe Jimenez. I guess I'm always there people talk about it and it's been brought up in movies and there's the scenes in Moneyball about it. But I guess in your experience, kind of talk me through the process of getting traded. How did you find out and kind of what was your reaction to it at the time?
Oh man. So all right, so I'll walk you through this process. So have a good year. I'm kind of I'm obviously in a good spot mentally. And I'm just like, all right, well, great year with the Braves. Let's try to do it again, right? The first year's over. Let's do it again. And then the fall league, good fall league. And I'm like, all right, well, let's build this momentum, build it into the off season. So then I end up just like hearing words, like just like from people like, oh, like your name's being thrown around. So I'm like kind of not prepped for it because I don't think anyone's ever prepped for their first trade. But I'm kind of like, there's no way this is going to happen. Like, it can't be me. No way. It's not me. So it's, I guess it's that like hot week in the off season where like things are moving around and trades are happening. And I get a call from this random number and I was like, decline, didn't answer it. And I was like, there's no way. Get a text from that number. Hey, Jay Hen, this is Ben with the Braves. I forgot his exact title, but I think he was like the minor league GM, or I don't even know, but he was high up. When he said it was Ben, I was like, oh man, it's Ben. And right then and there when he texted me, I knew I got traded just by how I've heard from friends that I had in the organization that got traded and how it kind of happens. I was like, I got traded. And I told my dad, he was sitting down. He was like, "Why? What makes you say that? Like, why do you think that?" I was like, "Watch this." Called him back. He gave me, he obviously gave me the spiel, "Thank you so much for what you've done. You know, it was great. It was a good conversation, but it was really quick, lasts a few minutes at most. And it's like, don't say anything until there's a press release. And my family's literally all in the living room and we're just all in this shock. And we're just waiting for another phone call, which was going to be from Scott Harris. And then he called me and then he's super fired up about the trade. And it just allowed for us to kind of like, and very quickly just like evolve from like the negative about the trade, which is like, oh, why am I leaving? I'm not going back, to now all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is super positive. Like this guy's really fired up about making this trade and for me to get down to Lakeland and spring training. And so it was a lot of emotions in a quick amount of time. But trades happen and I'm in this position now that I'm happy that it did happen. It's great.
I know it was the offseason, but when you heard that your name was kind of being thrown around, did it affect the way that you went about your business for a minute? Like, did it get into your head mentally that this could be a thing?
No, it's funny because it actually didn't at all, because I was in my head, it was just like, it's not happening. There's no way it could happen to me. Like there's just no way. I've only been here for a year. Like, mind you, like I don't know how trades work. I have no idea. But it's like you don't realize that like it could absolutely could happen to you, and it did. And then all of a sudden it like punches you in the mouth and it's like, oh wait, I just got traded. Like, and it was just like a weird feeling of like that natural, oh man, why did I get traded? I'm not going to see my boys, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to miss them. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this is going to be a sick experience, being able to make new friends, meet new people, have a new front office. Like they traded for you. So that's a great thing. And then it's just like, you try to look on the positive sides of what happened. And that's exactly what we did. And we did it in a short amount of time, which is great.
When you were originally traded, the kind of consensus from Tiger fans like myself was, hey, look, this is a guy who kind of fits the mold of the caliber of player that Scott Harris wants. He's a high on base guy. People liked the trade. I mean, a lot of people said this was kind of a win for the Tigers. I don't know how much you read into that stuff, but did that bring you any sort of comfort, being like, okay, people are happy that I'm here? It doesn't feel like I'm a forgotten piece, so to speak.
I mean, I definitely don't read into any of that stuff. I mean, I just think reading into that stuff is just, it's not good for your mental state. It's just kind of it's just going to end up being a roller coaster at some point. However, it's always nice to be wanted as a player. Like, I'm speaking from personal experience, can't speak for everyone, but I don't think anybody would love not being wanted somewhere, So, being wanted in a trade and having the trade happen, and it's like, it's a blessing for it to happen. And I was extremely excited. And it wasn't like I had any of those like negative feelings for very long at all. It was kind of like, it took about 5 minutes to realize like, okay, this just happened. It sucked for like 2 minutes. And then it's like, wait, this is such a good opportunity. Like, we should really look on all the positives on this. And that's how I went from there.
That's fantastic. And, you came from an organization as well that has become, famous for the way that they develop bats. Atlanta's had just this insane run of guys that they've brought up through the system. I guess in the now year or 14 months or so since you've joined the Tigers organization, what's the number one thing that you took from the Braves organization that you've carried over into your time with the Tigers so far?
The one thing that I took over from the Braves is that kind of like things can happen fast and it can happen to anyone. So like, and that doesn't mean like, I'm trying to give you the best answer possible. So through my experience with Atlanta, it was almost like if you played really well, you have a shot to go to the big leagues. It wasn't anything where it was like, it wasn't beating around the bush, and they never beat around the bush. And that was my first taste of pro ball, which is like, oh man, it's not anything other than you play good, you move up. You play good, you move up. Like that's kind of like, and that was kind of the thought process that a lot of guys had in Atlanta, where it was like, it made guys hungrier, where it was like, oh man, like Mike's getting called up from double A to the show, like play good and you move up. I was Vaughn's roommate the day that he got called up to the show in double A. Play well, you get called up, like, or you have the opportunity to get called up. So it's like good things happened when you played well, and that just makes you hungrier. So the one thing that I took from there to bring here is just more like just be hungry and to do the day-to-day things and try to your best to play, just to keep you hungry throughout the entire season.
You know, one of the key things that's been talked about with you over the last year or so has kind of been where you fit into all of this defensively. And it was recently announced that you are now officially an outfielder, no longer at third. I guess my first question about that is, how did you find out, and what was the discussion like when you were told, hey, we're sticking with you in the outfield?
Yeah, so I got on a Zoom call with AJ, Mr. Harris, Mr. Garco, I mean, a ton of guys in our front office, and we just kind of just went right into it. And we were just like, hey, like we're banging this whole like, infield, outfield thing. We want you just in the grass, and we want you to just get better at it. Hone in on that. And that's how it came about, and it was direct, and which I personally enjoy, which is like just cutting the fat out. Like I know where I'm going to be. I know where I need to get better at, and I know where I'm going to take my reps at. It's not anything that's in question anymore, which I enjoyed, and that allowed for me to be able to go into the off season just clear-minded on like what I need to work on most, and it was the outfield, and let's just attack it every single day. And it allowed for me to be in a good spot to feel comfortable and just be in the outfield and let things flow.
How much does like kind of being moved around the diamond like that, like obviously it seems like you have a home now in the outfield, but does that impact your the mental part of the game at all, with, knowing that you're not sure exactly what position you might be playing on any given day?
I can't speak as a whole because I don't know how it can affect the next guy. However, though, I mean, it's different, right? Like we're not going to act like third base. I mean, third base and shortstop are different positions, and they're a few yards away from each other, let alone third base, left field, and right field. Like they're completely different animals, and they're completely different skill sets that you have to hone in on. The reads, the ball off the bat, the wind you got to read, the dynamic of the field and how the field plays, and getting used to all that. So, I mean, it's definitely a lot more work, but also, you got to know the organization that you're in, and the Tigers really love to prioritize guys who move around, and because it gives us the best opportunity to win and to plug in the best pieces to be able to win baseball games. So it's definitely a challenge for players to be able to be really good in one position and really good in another position and really good in another position. It makes it a challenge, but it's definitely not something that guys have never done before.
For sure. I'm always curious about, and I talked to Tarek Skubal last week about this from the pitching side, but I wanted to ask you about the hitting side of things. I'm very fascinated by how players view analytics in the modern age, because I do think that there have been instances of guys who might get overwhelmed by it, of all the data that they have. I know the Tigers have been big on trying to have a greater influx of analytics within the organization. How, do you pay attention to stuff like batted ball data, or to you, is it more like my goal is I got to step into the box, see the best pitch, and try to do my job?
You nailed it. The second part, you nailed it. Yeah. I'm like, me personally, I'm a guy that's very simple. I try to make everything as simple as possible because baseball is very hard. I think a lot of people forget that it is incredibly hard to do these big leaguers and these guys and what I do on an everyday basis. It is very difficult. And to add all of these statistics, it's important because it allows for you to dive into parts of your game that you might not have even known or understood where you were lacking. However, it ends up being, at least again from my own personal experience, where it's like it's too much. It's too much to take in all at one time. It's too much to constantly like look at, okay, what am I doing here and what is this? Like there are statistics that I have seen that I have no idea what it even means, and I'll never know, and I actually don't even ever want to know, because it's just so far it's almost even out of my control. Like if I can control just trying to hit the ball as hard as I can in an at bat and control every at bat as its own and don't have at bats roll into each other and compete in every at bat, that's all I could really do.
Mhm.
All these other statistics, again, I can't even name them because I have no idea what they are. They kind of just turn into statistics that someone else might be able to use or someone else is going to look at, but I just think it makes the game that much harder to just constantly have numbers.
It's a fascinating thing because I'm interested. I've always been big on analytics, but I'm also somebody who acknowledges like it's still a game that's played by human beings, and human beings have like different emotions and how they feel. Like I've seen interviews with like Carlos Correa. He's huge on looking into like where my weighted runs created plus at like looking at heat maps, stuff like that. Whereas some other guys, I remember when JD Martinez was here, he had a notebook that he just wrote down every pitcher that he saw. Like that was the extent of how he how he became better at the big leagues. I think the Tigers right now as an organization, in terms of the makeup of their roster, are in a pretty good place in the sense that it doesn't feel like anybody's alone. You have guys like Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson who, well, a few years ago were in your position. These guys that were, fringe guys trying to make the team. Have you learned anything from them and kind of the journeys that they've made through the big league so far?
Definitely learning from them. It's just kind of like being able to do your day to day and just like do the right things, just do the small right things every single day, and they just add up. I mean, I doubt that there's one humongous thing that Torque did that completely changed the trajectory of his career. Like Torque's probably always been great at playing baseball, but Torque was Torque every single day. He made his minor adjustments, and he made those minor adjustments. They were small, they were small, they were small. And again, I'm just kind of speaking on what I think happened. Mm-hmm. There could have been an incredible change that he did. I have no idea. But I do believe that being around those guys, it's kind of just like the day-to-day and doing the right things and the right small things every single day. And I think that allows you to propel your career forward.
Yeah, and especially Torkelson, I think, in the long term will be I could see him having, the captaincy at some point, because I think with the way that he came through the organization, the pressure that was on him and the adjustments that he made, I feel like he grew so much, not just physically as a player, but especially kind of the mental part of it. And that kind of leads me to my next question. You, Colt Keith, some of the other guys in this system, people are kind of penciling you guys in as, pieces of the lineup, not just, at some point this year, but kind of going forward. I know that you don't read a ton into this stuff, and you're a smarter man than I, but as somebody who has a job on social media, but do you feel any pressure?
I wouldn't be human if I said I didn't. But that's a part of it. And I think that like you hear like kind of like, I don't want to say it's a dumb saying where it's like pressures are privilege, but it's like, when you kind of sit back and you think about it, and it's like, you wouldn't want it any other way. Because if it was any other way, you wouldn't be in a good position. Like you wouldn't be in the blessing of a position that you're in if there wasn't any pressure added to it. And when I start thinking like that, it kind of relieves that natural pressure of what's going on of, gotta make the big leagues. And it's just like, yeah, that's nice. Everyone wants to get to the big leagues. But again, it kind of goes back to like just doing the little things right and just stacking up good days where it's like, yeah, the big picture will always remain the big picture, but you'll never get to the big picture if you're constantly looking at it and you're not looking at the step you need to take to get there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, again, yes, there's pressure. There'll always be pressure while I play. Like everyone will have pressure. I mean, I just don't think you would be human if you were to say like, oh, like there's no pressure in playing baseball. Like, yeah, there is, and it's fun. Like that's what makes it fun, because when you thrive through that pressure, it makes it that much more enjoyable. And I just think like being in the position that I'm in right now, to be able to hopefully, make the big club and hopefully good things happen, that's pressure. And I think that's pressure that I wouldn't want any other way.
And I think especially the point you bring up about, the pressure some guys might put on about, I got to make it to the big leagues. especially where the position you're in, so much of that is out of your control. I mean, we've seen guys, top prospects, like I remember Chris Bryant lit it up in spring training in 15, didn't make the team out of camp. Like sometimes so much of that you could probably get in your own head thinking like, what more do I need to do to make the team? When sometimes it's not even anything that's performance based or, based on anything that you did. I was looking through your some of your social media stuff and I saw a lot of retweets and a lot of quote tweets from the book, The Secret. And I'm very fascinated by the mental aspect really of life, but especially of the game of baseball. I was looking at your numbers and it's obvious you've improved in so many ways in terms of how you see the ball, your power numbers. But how do you think your mental game has changed in the last few years that's helped you become a better player?
I definitely think my mental game has changed because one, it's like gratitude. Like I really try to like look from like a good lens of things. Um, Baseball is very hard, like I said, and it's very easy to kind of like get in that dark place if things aren't going right. And I bet plenty of players have gone through that dark place where like, where am I going with my career? I went through it at Vanderbilt. I didn't know where my career was going. I was just a bench warmer. I was cheering my guys on, but it's like in my heart, it was like, I want to make to become a pro. And I don't even know if that's even going to be possible after not playing for 2 years. And I got into that dark space and, thankfully, like just being able to like, with the support system that I have, my mom, my dad, Steve Teal, like there's such a deep support system that's just behind me that allowed for me to kind of like dig my way out of that bad place where it's like, no, like good things are coming and you got to be positive about it. You got to kind of speak it into the universe and you got to really believe things are going to come your way. And that kind of allowed for me to have this positive mentality where it's like, dude, I get to play a game every day. Like this is sick. Like I get to play on these fields that are manicured to perfection every day in professional baseball. Like I get to play in front of fans. Like when I started looking at it from that type of lens, it sure off me where it was like just to enjoy it. And then all of a sudden things started rolling in a better direction in my career. And that's when I really was like, that's got to be the mentality to have, not only through baseball, but I really think like through life in general.
And I feel like somebody that came up when you did was put in an even tougher position in terms of just the uncertainty of things, because you went through the COVID year, and I was talking to Scooble about that. Like he made his debut during that year. And he's like, man, it didn't feel like baseball to me. I mean, there was so much uncertainty kind of going on throughout the world. You end up transferring to Georgia Tech, and now you obviously worked your way up through the system. I asked Tarek this, and I'll ask you the same question. Was there a moment in the minor leagues or maybe like a hot stretch that you had or meeting with a coach where you started to get the impression like, yeah, I feel like I'm going to be a major league player?
Deep down, I would be lying if I said like, that's what I've always wanted. I think, but I also think that's what every other big leaguer and every other professional baseball player has ever wanted, was to be a big leaguer. The moment that I felt that it could be possible was when I was with Atlanta and Austin Riley was getting he was about to sign. He was about to sign his big deal. I was playing third base at the time. And I had a conversation with one of our, I don't know his exact, he's coordinator, director, I don't know exactly his title, Kevin Hooper. And when they came to me, they were like, hey, we're going to make this transition and we want you to go to the outfield because we think Riley's about to ink this deal. And when I looked at it, I was kind of like not upset at first, but I was like, dang, man, but then it's like quickly, like kind of that mentality of like, okay, look at the positive. It's like, wait a minute. They want me to kind of pivot and go into the grass because someone signed there, but that's just creating an opportunity for myself to be able to potentially get to the big leagues. And and mind you, like I'm in high A Rome at the time, like and who knows about the big leagues at the time, right? Like I have no idea. But in that moment, I was like, the big leagues is attainable if an organization is allowing me the trust and hey, we trust you to be able to pivot and go to a different position for the sake of this organization because third base is locked up now and that doesn't really give you a shot. So left field, there's an opportunity out there and we want you to go out there and have an opportunity. And that's when I kind of was like, all right, like I could potentially be a big leaguer if I can make this work and to be able to excuse my mouth
No, you're
and
okay.
go out there and get it done. And that was kind of like my first experience of like I could do this.
I feel like the worst thing you can go through coming up through any organization is to be ignored. Like to have them sit down with you and tell you like, hey, this is what we need from you. This is where we're moving you. I feel like in a lot of ways that's them telling you we think you're a big league player. Because if they would have stuck you at third, like Riley ain't going anywhere. So there's kind of that traffic jam there at that position. Do you miss third base at all?
I do. I mean, like I grew up as a kid. As a kid, I played third base, and I loved Alex Rodriguez. Super controversial, I know, but I loved A Rod. I grew up watching A Rod, and then, but once I went to college, I was playing a lot more first base because the third baseman we had, it was Austin Martin. He was going to be first
Oh
round
yeah.
pick, and yeah, so like I wasn't getting many reps at third, so all of them were at first, and giving it up was just kind of like like the little kid in me was like, oh no, but the opportunity was like, yo, let's go out there and let's do something in the grass and let's get better out there and let's bust our tail and really take advantage of the opportunity to go out there. And it didn't take long at all for me to just understand that and for me to just take it head on.
You actually kind of I took the next question I was about to ask when you brought up A Rod. Was A Rod your favorite player to watch growing up, both at the plate
He
and in the
was.
field? He was,
He
yeah.
was. Yes.
It's really strange, and passage of time just changes things because I feel like there for like a solid decade, maybe 5 to 10 years, it's like the idea of that being a thing would have bothered people, but now everyone who was like a teenager when he was in his prime was like, I loved A-Rod growing up. Like he was,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I mean, it always I hit. I think it was either home run 600. I remember off of Verlander at Yankee Stadium. Have you ever had the opportunity to run across him at any point?
No, I wish I could. I would love to pick that guy's brain on just not only the baseball side, but also in the business side, because one of the things that like me personally, like I want to become literate in that field of like just knowing what's going on in those types of fields of business and of owning things and of everything that he's doing. I mean, A-Rod's on Shark Tank now, which is like incredible to go from incredible baseball player to incredible businessman. And I just think that that's such a valuable skill that, you know, even a lot of baseball players probably don't have. It's just kind of like baseball, and then what do I do after that? And for him to have those skills to be able to go bounce from one field to another and be successful in both, I think that that is incredible.
For sure, for sure. And we A-Rod obviously, I don't know how many all-star teams he made, but 15, 16, what have you. But you had the opportunity last year, along with Colt Keith, to attend some of the all-star, at least, festivities for the Futures game. You were down there in Seattle. That was a lame segue. I got to be honest with what I just said. I mean, I think I tried to make it work. But you were in Seattle, obviously, for the Futures game. Just kind of what was that experience like for you, kind of to be in the big league park, to be around players you've probably seen or heard of for a minute coming up to the minor league system?
It was actually such an incredible experience. Finding out about it was an event in and of itself after a game and getting the call from Mr. Garco and him just telling me that I was selected for it. It was just like, it's a game that I grew up watching, right? Like I grew up watching this game on TV and looking at the top prospects and then following them in their careers. And then it's like all of a sudden you get to be able to live out something that you've wanted to do for so long. And then being able to get to Seattle, and it was such a first class event, and being able to reconnect with a lot of the guys that I've either played with or against throughout the minor leagues. And obviously that event just brings you that much closer to them, just because it's just like, it's an event that you get to share with, just a few guys every year, even though it's probably 50 or 60 guys that get selected. That's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. And, to really be fortunate to be selected, that's really where I was at mentally, and to be able to just experience it was incredible. The people there were incredible.
And the guy that you were there with from representing the Tigers organization was Colt Keith a few weeks ago. Inked a nice deal, nice little contract extension for himself. Is there almost a comfort that comes with that from your perspective, being like, well, the organization is really honing in on developing and retaining guys like us, these kind of younger players, that are coming up through the system?
No doubt. I mean, I definitely think that it's just such a positive to be able to know that we're trying to keep guys for the long haul.
Mhm.
And I just think that that's very encouraging for the big leaguers who are in the locker room and for the guys who are itching to get there. I think it's very comforting, just because it's like, all right, like this front office isn't just wanting to have us be good and then that guy's not going to be here, for the next, or in the next X amount of years. Like, no, like they want to keep guys for the long haul, and they value the type of player that he is. And I'm so happy for him. And that's incredible for him and his family for that to be able to happen. And dinner is on him next time we go.
That was going to be my next question. Has he gotten you anything yet? I have you had the opportunity to hit at Comerica Park yet?
I have not. No.
Yeah, because I was Comerica, especially over the last several years, and they moved the dimensions, and now it's kind of sometimes a hotly contested park that people talk about when it comes to, hitters. Obviously Miggy went through, had probably quite a few home runs taken away throughout his career. And the reason the reason I bring that up is, do you take in, like, when you go to a park, do you take into account like size or anything, like, or is that just overthinking, do you feel like from your perspective?
Oh no, like that's usually probably the first thing that a baseball player is. Like, you stroll into, oh man, this thing is either really nice to hit at, or this is a graveyard. And like, it's going to be one or the other, or it's going to be that middle of the pack. Like, oh, it's a stock field. Like, it's really nice, but like the dimensions are regular. I definitely do think that plays a role in, like, not a role in the game or anything, but it's just more of like, if it's big, we got to work low line drives, and we got to really like focus on, like, balls in the air probably not going out today. So we're not going to have much success out there. But I also do think on the other side of it, like, you don't want that to ever affect your game,
Yeah. And I feel like, people bring up Cabrera and like, look, that's fair. What could have been if you played a smaller park, but he had generational power where it's like, I mean, if the ball was going to be flying regardless of whatever park he played in. Obviously AJ Hinch, manager for the Tigers, former player. I played a little bit with the Tigers. Just talk a little bit about your relationship with him up to this point, and kind of what, how you've been able to pick his brain, so to speak.
AJ's been awesome.
Yeah.
He's been absolutely awesome. I mean, just being able to be a guy that's coming into a new locker room. Not only is it a new locker room, but it is a locker room now filled with grown men that I've never met, who have families and children, and it was just a lot. And AJ just made it not as big as it was. He just kind of was a great manager, is a great manager. And that's why he's, the figure that we're going to be behind all season long, even if I'm in AAA. Like, that's a team you want to be at. That's a team you want to be at because of guys like AJ, and AJ makes it fun for players to be around, and it makes us want to be there. And, I'm excited, and I really hope that our relationship grows even more if I'm around him a lot more often.
You talked about it in terms of analytics and just kind of simplifying approach. I think that one thing AJ does a remarkable job of is taking a game that can get very difficult and making it into something that can be very simple. Like, I mean, obviously there's so many nuances to the game of baseball, but he's had the same philosophy ever since he got here. Like, we're going to try to win today's game, going to try to win tomorrow's game, and we'll focus on it. We'll let the other chips fall where they may. Obviously, I was ecstatic when we brought him in, and I'm not surprised that he's connected with the guys the way that he has. I guess I get asked probably about 3 times a day, Justyn, if you're going to make the team out of spring training? And I always say I don't know. And I'm not gonna ask you that question because you don't know either. I know you're gonna put your best foot forward. I guess from a mental standpoint, where you're at right now in your career, the years you've had in the minor leagues over the last several years, do you feel like you're a major league player right now?
I do. I really do. And I'm excited about where I'm at mentally and definitely physically, making those strides in the off season. And I definitely think I'm a big leaguer. And I want to be able to get the trust of my teammates, the coaching staff, the front office to be able to prove that and get the opportunity to prove that. And, in order to get that opportunity, you have to be able to build that trust. And I just want to be able to do that every single day and to be able to just stack up good days, stack up good reps, and to be able to show them and also show myself, right? Like, I want to be put with the best of the best of the best. Like, I want to compete with the best of the best. Like, I love to compete. Like, anything that I do, like, I love to compete. And being at the best of the best level, like, that's where you're really going to find out, like, where are you? And I want to find that out for myself too. So I definitely do think that I'm a big league player, and I just want to be able to do that.
Like, as I talked about earlier, you came up with Atlanta, who's obviously been, they've won the division, I think, every year since 2018. They won a World Series in 21. It's a much different situation in Detroit. Have you kind of thought about the idea that there's the potential for you to be part of that resurgence of Tiger baseball? I mean, they haven't been to the playoffs in 10 years. Like, is that something you think about, or is it more important to you just kind of individually go through the day by day?
No, you gotta see that picture, like, and it's right there, which is so cool. Like, and it's funny. So I got asked kind of like a similar question just about, like, I guess, like, the rebuild and kind of like how things are going and how things are turning. And again, like, I've only been in the organization for a year, but I think the growth that I've seen in just 1 year from where we were, and then seeing the guys up in the big leagues seeing the strides that they're having and seeing the strides that we're having in the minor leagues, and just seeing that change and evolution of, like, okay, we're going to be very good. And it's happening sooner than later. And I just think that it's a lot of fun. Like, it's just so much fun, like, just seeing the pieces and being around the pieces too. Like, the guys that I didn't really know of or not know of, because I knew of everyone in the Tigers organization before I was there. But then, like, being around Torque when I've never met him, being around Riley when I played with Riley when I was like 17, but, like, we weren't, like, close or anything. Mm-hmm. And then it's like being around the big pieces. It's like, oh, not only are these guys really good baseball players, but these guys are really good dudes, like, just really good people. And it's like, it's just exciting to be able to see the camaraderie that's happening in the locker room, in the locker room that I'm currently in right now. And I'm hoping to be able to see the camaraderie in the big league locker room, hopefully someday.
It's interesting because I feel like your kind of journey with the Tigers to a certain extent coincides with Scott Harris's, where, like, last year was your first year in the Tigers system. It was his first year as the president. Have you noticed a change or just a development in terms of how everyone's going about their business this year compared to how they came into last season?
I definitely think the guys are probably going about their business the same. I do think the mentality is different.
Yeah.
Where it's like, again, I've never been to the big leagues. I don't speak on the big leagues because I've never been there. But I do think that the mentality of, we have a chance. Like, last year was a decent year. I never say it's a good year unless, like, you win. Like, you got to win, right? And I don't think AJ or anyone in the big league locker room would ever say, like, losing is great. Like, no, like, you need to win. But I do think,
I got to say, sorry to cut you off. As somebody who's watched every game of this rebuild, you're right. But it was substantially more bearable than anything we'd seen in a long time here, man.
No doubt. And it being more bearable is definitely a step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. However, there's more steps to be done. Like, the steps aren't over. But it's like, to be able to see the change and the evolution, like I was saying before, it's like that mentality is now changing from, The Tigers to now it's like, oh wait, like Tigers are kind of coming. Like it's not, and it's happening now. And I think that that's just it's such a positive mentality to have, and it allows for playing baseball to be that much more fun.
Absolutely. And I mean, the fans are going to be ecstatic to hear that. And it's tough, man, because really, I grew up and a lot of people around my age grew up with those great Tiger teams. And it's kind of a weird realization to be like, yeah, it's been a minute. Like that's like classic rock now, those like mid 2000, mid 2010s teams that we kind of came up with. So look, we're super excited for the next step. I appreciate you being on, man. You're an impressive guy. I mean, you really are. And we're all rooting for you here. Can't wait to see you in the bigs this year, and hopefully a part of what will be another great era of Tiger baseball. But anything you need to plug, any socials, anywhere that you want us to follow you, or just should we just be supporting you at the ballpark?
I mean, I'm cool with you guys just supporting me at the ballpark, but I mean, I guess like all my socials, it's Justyn-Henry Malloy. Most people just call me J-Hen. I know it shows up here if you're looking at it because I'm looking at it. It says Justyn-Henry Malloy. Usually Justin's like for school. Justyn-Henry's kind of like when I'm in trouble.
Has
Jay,
AJ referred to you as Justyn-Henry at any point?
I hope he never does because that means I'm screwed.
Okay.
that means something bad happened. So if that ever has happened or if it ever does happen, just know I'm not in a good spot.
You're in the doghouse. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. It's my middle name's Robin after my mom. So if every time I've grown up hearing Christopher Robin, I know some shit's about to go down. Probably not great. But, dude, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us, man. I hope to talk to you again at some point soon. And enjoy Lakeland. Hope to see you in the bigs here in a minute.
Chris, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you very much to Justyn. I mean, I didn't say this to him during the interview, but like, what an impressive guy. I mean, just a smart, like, I'm 28 now, so like the older I get, the more blown away I am by people who are in their like early 20s. Because I couldn't like chew gum and talk when I was at that age. Like I was just figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. Both the Skubal interview, but I knew Skubal was already a really good pitcher. I just feel very good about his trajectory. I mean, from the mental aspect of the game, I would be very surprised if the Tigers don't hit with Justyn-Henry Malloy. And I don't know, maybe I was serving him softball questions. Maybe it was made to be that way, but he was fantastic. And we stayed on for a little bit waiting for his recording to upload and just talk baseball. I really, and we'll talk more about it as the season goes along. One of the things I'm most excited about is it really seems like there's a great bond and camaraderie amongst a lot of these young Tiger players. I can't guarantee that they're going to be the best team, but I think it's going to be a really likable team, and hopefully they can start winning some games. So thank you very much for listening and watching that interview. Thank you to Justyn-Henry Malloy for joining. We will be back next week, hopefully with 2 more episodes. Got a few people that I'm trying to line up for interviews, but hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button, subscribe on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube. Comment, let me know what you thought of this interview. Let me know who you want to see me interview next. Really liking the stuff with the Tigers players so far. We will keep that going. I don't want to make this just a Tigers-centric show, but, we'll mix it up. It's like poetry. Each stanza kind of rhymes with the last, to quote George Lucas.
Yeah, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
I'm rambling. Appreciate it, guys. Love y'all very much. Have a great one. Peace and happiness.
Go get 'em, Tiger!